Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to vlog
Number 5.
vlog number 5. I really appreciate everybody's support so far and I hope you will continue to support me and the channel. How do you do that? Well, if you like my content, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I post a new video. That's enough talking for now. Let's head into this week's tournament. As you've seen maybe from the title, we were all in 15 times. How many did we win? Let's check it out. I'll catch you guys later. In this first hand, we look down at Queen 10 of spades, under the gun +2 limps for 50, middle position limps, we bump it up to 300, small blind folds, big blind folds, under the gun +2 calls to 300, so does the middle position player. We go 3 ways to a flop, which comes 6, 10, 9 with 2 diamonds. Under the gun +2 checks, middle position checks. Here with top pair and decent kicker on the very wet board, I think a c-bet is in order to get value from diamond draws and worse pairs. Although there are straight draws available on the board, I block king queen and queen jack, so it's unlikely that we're up against those hands. I bet 550. Under the gun +2 calls, middle position folds, we go heads up to the turn, which comes the ace of clubs. Under the gun +2 checks to us. Our opponent could have floated with ace high on the flop and hit the turn. I have second pair, and with the ace on the board, I don't think I can still get value from a worse pair than mine. As mentioned before, it's unlikely I'm up against king queen or queen jack, so the only draws I would be looking to get value from are diamonds. Because of those reasons, I think a check and reevaluating on the river is preferable. However, I decided to bet 1600. I remember thinking to myself that by betting, I could represent the ace as the preflop aggressor, therefore turning my pair of tens into a semi-bluff. In retrospect, I don't think this is a good bluff. The only head better than mine that I could reasonably get a fold from is king 10, and even then it's likely our opponent would call with that hand. I also thought that a lot of times this bet may lead my opponent to check again on the river, at which point I would check back, rather than them betting and having to decide whether to fold or hero call on the river. Under the gun +2 calls to 1600. River comes the 5 of spades. Under the gun +2 checks to us again. I'm not going to get value from a worse hand than mine. My opponent won't call with a missed draw. The plan was to check anyway after betting the turn, so I check. We go to a showdown. Under the gun +2 shows ace 9 for a turned 2 pair. They win the pot. On to the next hand. In this next hand, we look down at pocket queens. Hello, ladies. Under the gun +2 limps for 100. We bump it up to 400. Low jack calls, high jack calls, button calls, small blind folds, big blind calls. Under the gun +2 calls, we go 5 ways to a flop of queen 10 3. What a flop for us. The big blind checks. Under the gun +2 checks. I have top set in a multi-way pot on a pretty dry board. I suppose I could check here and let my opponents catch up, but I do want to start extracting value from my hand as soon as possible. I think a very small bet would accomplish similar results to a check by letting my opponents continue with a ton of weak holdings, such as a pair of tens, middling pairs, and draws such as king jack or jack 9. I'm not too concerned about ace king being in the mix since there was no 3-bet pre-flop. So I bet 600. I get called by the low jack, hijack folds, button calls, under the gun +2 calls. I am surprised, but happy to see all but one player call and continue to the turn. Choo-choo! All aboard! Destination Value Town. Let's see a brick. Turn comes the 7 of clubs. Under gun +2 checks again. It's a pretty clean turn, which does bring an additional straight draw. My stack size is a little bit awkward with about 6.5k left in my stack and close to 5k in the pot. I don't want to jam and have my opponents fold when I'm holding the nuts, but I do want to charge draws and maybe extract value from a lower set. I decide on a half pot bet, which would leave me with a half pot bet on the river if one opponent calls. So I bet 2200. The low jack calls, the button calls, under the gun +2 calls. Again, I am surprised to see all 3 players continue to the river. I'm thinking a lower set could definitely be in the mix here. Let's see a clean river. The river doesn't come much cleaner than this. It's the deuce of clubs. Under the gun +2 checks to us again. We don't have much to think about here. I have a third pot bet left in my stack. So I shove, hoping that maybe one or more opponents will call. However, the low jack folds, the button folds, and under the gun +2 folds. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way I played this hand. Interestingly enough, if I were to be results oriented, by betting half pot on the turn and getting 3 players to call, I won as much as I would have by jamming and maybe getting 1 player to call. So, pretty happy with the result. On to the next hand. In this next hand, we look down at pocket 5s from the big blind. We see a limp from under the gun +1. Under the gun +2 raises to 600. The cutoff 3 bets to 2,500. The small blind folds and it's on to us. I'm not crazy about the idea of investing 12 bigs with pocket 5s, especially with 2 players left to act behind me. However, the 3 better has me covered and I could be looking at a full double up or more if I hit my set. I decide to gamble it up and make the call. Under the gun +1 then shoves for a little over 4K. Under the gun +2 folds. The cutoff calls. I hate the spot even more now, but it's costing me roughly an extra 1.5K to potentially win a pot of over 12K, and I close the action pre-flop, so I call. Let's hit a 5. The flop comes King 3 Queen with 2 diamonds. I check, cutoff checks. Turn is a 7 of hearts. We check around again. River, ace of spades. We check around one more time. We go to a showdown. Under the gun +1 shows ace king for 2 pair. Cutoff shows pocket jacks. We lose a little bit of our stack here. No big deal. Let's move on to the next hand. In this next hand, I look down at ace 10 offsuit from the small blind and the action folds around to me. I make a standard raise to 800. The big blind decides to shove for 6,600. I know my opponent is capable of doing this with a wide range of holdings against which ace 10 does really well, especially in the blind on blind scenario. Also, this is the player that bluffed me with 5-6 of diamonds in vlog number 3, and they're on my revenge list, so I think it's time for revenge. I call. They show ace 5 offsuit. Let's go to a showdown.
Give me a bad beat. Come on, give me a bad beat for the vlog. Come on. Running 5. Let's go. Let's go. Do it.
Nice to get the full double up here. Let's go on to the next hand. Next hand, we look down at pocket 5 from middle position. We see a limp from under the gun. Under the gun +1 limps. Limping would be totally fine here, but I prefer taking the aggressive route and giving myself a chance to win the pot pre-flop or with a continuation bet on the flop. Therefore, I raise to 2,000. Folds around to the small blind who goes all in for 8,200. Under the gun folds. Under the gun +1 folds. I could be up against a bigger pair, but when my opponent shoves 14 bigs, they also have a lot of hands I'm going to be flipping against here. I came to gamble and film an entertaining vlog, so I make the call. Let's go to a showdown.
We'll see right now.
Let's flip. Flipping for the vlog. Let's do it.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh.
Yeah, that's bad. If you had that board,
Maybe.
got wrecked.
Oh! 82.
9 on the river, which gives my opponent the win. We were really close to picking up another decent sized pot here. Our stack takes a hit. Let's move on to the next hand. We don't pick up a hand or get involved in any pot for about half an hour, and my stack is getting short, but so are some of the other players at the table. Therefore, when I look down at ace 6 offsuit on the button with 9 big blinds in my stack and action folds to me, it's a standard shove. The small blind folds. The big blind, after thinking for a little bit, calls for 8,000, 4 big blinds with 9-10 suited. Let's go to a showdown. I love seeing the ace in the window, but unfortunately the flop was ace 9-10, giving my opponent 2 pair. We don't improve on the turn on the river, and we lose another portion of our stack. On to the next hand. In this next hand, I look down at beautiful ace-king offsuit from the big blind, and I have 4 big blinds in my stack. Folds around to the button who limps for 2,000. The small blind raises to 4,000. I love to see it. I obviously shove for 9,500. The button folds. The small blind, after thinking for a little bit, decides to call. Understandable. They're kind of pot committed. And they show ace 7 offsuit. We're in a great spot to double up here. Let's go to a showdown.
Well, you know 7's coming, right?
Oh, it will be. I didn't take a lot of bad beats so far, so ace, okay.
Oh, here we go, here we go. Good hand.
Boom! Nice to get the double up. On to the next hand. Even though we doubled up with ace king, we are still very much short stacked here with 5 big blinds in our stack, and we look down at ace 7 suited in the small blind. We see a limp from the hijack, a limp from the button. It's on us. There's a lot of dead chips in the pot. Let's go for it. Let's shove. The big blind folds, the hijack folds, and the button folds. We pick up all the chips. Great result. Let's go on to the next hand. Here we look down at Jack 10 suited under the gun with 8 big blinds in our stack. We shove and we get everybody to fold. We pick up some more chips. Let's keep going. In this next hand, we look down at pocket 5s from under the gun. We have 10 big blinds, and once again, we shove. The small blind folds. The big blind calls for 6,500. We have them covered. They show pocket 8s. Can we suck out? Can we hit the 5? Let's go to a showdown.
Good. Thank you.
The reason you can't underestimate girls in this game.
That's cool. I can take it. Can we split it still? No.
Play snowman.
Nice hand.
Unfortunately, 8s hold up here. We lose another portion of our stack. On to the next hand. I go card dead once again, and I don't play any hands for about half an hour, and my stack is all but gone. I have 2 big blinds. When I look down at ace 5 offsuit from the cutoff, we see a limp in early position. I shove from the cutoff. The small blind folds, the big blind folds, and the early position player calls. They show pocket 5s. We're in a terrible spot here with ace 5. We're going to need to hit a 3-outer. Can we do it? Let's go to a showdown. In all seriousness, we got really lucky here. Do you want to hit 3-outers too? Smash that like button and you will hit a 3-outer in one of your next 50 games, guaranteed. You're welcome. All right, we got really lucky, but we are still in a pretty dire situation with 6 big blinds in our stack. We look down at king queen offsuit from the hijack. Action folds to us. We shove. The small blind folds. The big blind calls, and we have them covered, but not by a lot. They show king 10. I'm in a great spot to get an almost full double up, build a 12 big blind stack, and have a fighting chance in this tournament. Let's go to a showdown.
You don't want one? That sounds it. You're done drinking?
We hold up, we build a decent stack, and we move to the final table. First hand of the final table, we look down at king jack offsuit under the gun. We have 11 big blinds in our stack. 9-handed at the table. It's not the most comfortable shove, but I shove anyway. The low jack calls, they have 3 bigs in their stack. The button calls with 2 bigs in their stack. So we cover both players, and they show 10-9 suited for the low jack, ace-9 suited for the button. We are about 30% to win, and we could knock out 2 players and move closer to the money. Let's go to a showdown.
As-9, donc
3-10.
Oh putain, il a 3-10, ce connard.
Oh my god!
Our hopes of winning all but withered on the flop when the worst hand made trips and then made a boat on the turn and quads on the river. We are back down at 7 big blinds when we look down at ace 7 offsuit from the big blind. We see a limp from under the gun. The small blind completes, and there's a lot of dead chips in the middle again. We have 7 big blinds. We have an ace. We shove. Under the gun folds. Small blind folds. Great result for us. Let's move on to the next hand. Next hand, we look down at ace 10 offsuit from the button with about 6.5 big blinds in our stack. We see a limp from the low jack, folds around to us. We shove from the button. The small blind folds, the big blind folds. The low jack decides to go for it. They call, and it's pretty even in terms of stack. They show king 10 of spades. We're once again in a great spot to double up and build a nice stack for once in this tournament. Let's go to a showdown. Let's hold up.
Hey, you can hold the king.
Oh, can I?
It's the king.
Not even a sweat here. Great board for us. We get close to a double up. We knock out a player. We are 7-handed now. 4 players get paid. When we look down at ace queen offsuit from under the gun, we have about 17 bigs in our stack. At a 7-handed table, 17 big blinds, we have ace queen. I could open, but I feel like I risk getting called in 1 or 2 spots and then whiffing the flop, and then I'll find myself in an uncomfortable situation under the gun, out of position. So I go for the easiest option. I put the pressure on my opponents and I shove my 17 bigs. The hijack calls. They have about 10 big blinds, and the cutoff calls for 6 big blinds. So once again, we cover both players. Hijack shows pocket kings. The cutoff shows, huh? What the 6-9 suited. Okay. Well, we need to win against kings, so can we hit a 3-outer again? Let's go to a showdown.
6 of clubs. Oh my god!
Clubs, too. He's got club drive.
Sick. He's got the straight open there.
Once again, this player seems to pull a miracle out of the hat, and they flop a straight. And just for added insult to injury, they turn a flush draw and they river a bigger straight. Good game. We lose a big portion of our stack here, and we're going to be forced all in again very soon. The moment comes when we look down at pocket 5s from the big blind. We have 7 big blinds in our stack. The low jack limps, the small blind folds. It's onto us. We have an easy shove here. The low jack decides to call. It's the same player from the hand before with 6-9 suited, and this time this donkey player shows, oh my god, 6-9 suited again. Where clearly they can't win twice with this hand, right? Let's go to a showdown.
5.
Shove the cycle.
I had
Four.
3
Put a 4 out there.
board. Like, just tear the fucking board.
4.
6 or 9.
Oh, God. We get rivered. We're out of the tournament. 3 from the money. Very fun tournament. Very exciting to be all in all those times. Unfortunately, once again, we fail. Good game, everybody. See you all soon. Yeah. 6-9 suited twice, and we're out of this tournament. Hey, that's the magic of home games. As I've mentioned before, even though losing sucks, and busting out a couple of spots away from money sucks, I'm finding out that I'm really enjoying the process of vlogging as much, or sometimes even more, than playing. So it's all good. One more time, wanted to remind you guys, I will be playing at the game next Saturday, February 26th. If you're in the area and you want to play, come say hi. And once again, if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell. Really appreciate the support. I'm at 48 subscribers right now, and let's make it 50 for this video, all right? And also, if you want to know where I'm going to be playing, follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to be posting there whenever I play one of those bigger buying tournaments, such as next Saturdays. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.